All right, now that we have done the first three steps, now we're gonna go step 4. I'm gonna write it over here. Step 4, let me put it in black. And basically step 4, they ask you, they're gonna use a fancy name that is called the test statistic. And basically it means you're gonna be using a formula. And because we're going to test the claim about percentages in the population. In the handout that I gave you, there was a table with formulas. I'm using this formula here. You can see that what's the name of this formula? Population proportion, the test for population proportion. Okay, and this formula is called the test statistic. Now, before you use the formula, you should be checking these two requirements. However, because in this class, we're going to assume this requirement is always going to pass, we go straight into the formula. So let's plug in Z equal. Now, the formula says P hat. What is P hat? P hat is the percentage of the sample that say yes in the question you ask. And in this case, you can see here it's 21%. So I'm going to write 0.21 minus P. What is P? Look at step 1. Look at HO. P equal 0.25. That's what you're going to put there. And then divided by the square root of P, which we already know, 0.25, times Q. Now, how do you figure out Q? Q is 1 minus, let me write that here. Q is 1 minus P. So since you already know P, 0.25, 1 minus 0.25 is 0.75. All of this divided by the by n, and n is the sample size. How many participate in the survey? You can see here is 200. Now, using Desmos calculator, I suggest you use Desmos calculator. Okay, I'm gonna write what I put in by what I wrote by hand. I'm gonna type it here. So 0.21 take away 0.25, everything over 0.25 times 0.75, everything over 200. And you can see the value for my test statistic that is labeled with Z. So I'm going to round to 2 decimal places. So we'll be negative 1.31. Now, if you're wondering why I need this number, this is the number that we're going to use to label these marks. The one on the left is negative. The mark on the line here, this mark is going to be the positive number. Okay, that's why we need that number. We need to do this step 4 so we can label those marks. Now, step number 5, if you look at the handout, it says, or the steps, it says find the p-value. How do we find the p-value? The p-value is how much is shaded here. And how do we do that? We're going to use the normal calculator. Now, we need to tell the calculator how which tails are shaded. So since I shaded both tails, click on the drop-down menu, choose the third option. And then in the blue box, you're going to type the answer you got in step number 4, negative 1.31, and hit enter. And then you can see it's shaded both tails like you did in step 3. And the probability, what is in the red box is the p-value, so 0.190. Check the next video to see the last 2 steps.